Some call me nature. Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
Thank you, Julia Roberts, for your special appearance on our report. Chaz. So on a serious note, we would like you to ask yourselves, is it ethically moral to choose nature over humans or humans over nature? Peter Singer is known in practical ethics and is also one of the founders of the modern animal rights movement. He uses a utilitarian approach because he believes that application of moral objectivity in addressing practical ethics is the way, due to the uncertainty of a difficult situation such as climate change. With that, let us talk about Chapter 10 of Practical Ethics, the environment. Environmental ethics is about the moral relationship between humans and the environment. There are subtopics to be discussed in this chapter that represents different perspectives and has their own take on the degree of significance of human and the environment. Western tradition is life-centered, kaya from this perspective, all living things are important. It is only when nature and humans come together that they form a healthy and functioning community. Kaya naman we don't have the moral duty to take care of nature because nature will benefit from us. Let's look at this perspective by looking to the excerpts from the Bible and from the interpretations of St. Augustine, Aristotle, and St. Thomas Aquinas. Ang story of creation galing sa Book of Genesis ang naging basehan ng mga Hebrew para tukuyin kung ano ang papel ng mga tao sa environment at base sa divine plan. Katulad sa nakasulat sa Biblia, tayo daw ay mga dominion. Pero sa panahon ngayon, nabahala ang mga Kristiyano sa paggamit ng salitang dominion dahil sa posibilidad na pagkakamali sa pagbibigay ng interpretasyon, katulad ng paggamit sa kalikasan ng walang regulasyon o pagsaalang-alang sa kahihinatnan o kapakanan ng ibang buhay. Kaya naman, mas ginagamit na ngayon ang salitang stewardship para ilarawan ang papel ng mga tao sa paggamit ng kalikasan. Pero dahil sa kwento ng Noah's Ark na kung saan hinayaan ng Diyos na malunod ang lahat at pili lamang ang sinalba, bumalik ang pagtingin na pwede natin gawin ang kung ano man ang gusto natin sa kalikasan dahil ang Diyos nga ginawa ito para maparusahan ang mga tao sa maraming kasalanan na nagawa nila. Pero ang konklusyon sa mga argumento na ito ay bilang mga morally significant, tagapangalaga tayo ng gawa ng Diyos at may katumbas ang pagpili natin sa kung paano tratuhin ng kalikasan, kasama na rin dito ang mga hayop. Sa pag-aaral naman ni Augustine, napansin niya na merong mga parte ng New Testament na para bang hindi nagtutugma sa sinasabi sa Old Testament, na binibigyan ng halaga ang mga puno at hayop. Dahil sa New Testament, ginawa ang pagpatay sa puno at paglunod sa mga baboy. Sabi ni Augustine, dahil sa nakasaad sa New Testament, Wala daw paki ang Diyos sa kalikasan. Pero may mga nagsasabi din na ito ay para lamang magbigay ng aral sa atin na huwag pumatay ng mga hayop at manira ng mga puno at halaman. Para kay Aristotle, sa nature may hierarchy din. Those with less reasoning ability exist for the sake of those with more. Makikita ang pagkakaugnay natin at ng kalikasan dahil para kay Aristotle, ang mga halaman na may least reasoning ability ay para sa mga hayop at ang mga hayop naman ay para sa mga tao. This was easily disputed by Peter Singer from a video published in 2017. He talked about the expensive trade-offs and the environmental cost of meat that we consume. Aquinas is known to be a follower of Aristotelian theology. In Summa Theologica, he mentioned that there is no possibility of sinning against non-human animals or against the natural world because according to Aquinas, actions that are considered as sins are only against God, ourselves, and our neighbors. From the word of Augustine, Aristotle, and Aquinas, these were the perspectives of mainstream Christians regarding the nature during the 18th century. To sum up, the concept of dominant Western tradition is based on the following. Natural world exists for the benefit of human beings. God does not care how humans treat the natural world. Nature has no value. The destruction of plants and animals cannot be sinful unless its destruction is meant to harm human beings. And lastly, there is only concern for nature if it is related to humans' well-being. Base sa mga nasabi galing sa Western tradition, pinapakita na mas importante pa rin talaga ang pangangailangan ng mga tao kaysa sa pag-preserve o pag-regulate sa paggamit natin sa mga nakikita natin sa kalikasan. Let us look at a different perspective where nature is given more importance. Makikita sa metaphor na ang wilderness o ang kinatatayuan natin ay limitado lamang ang kanyang maibibigay. Kung mapapabayaan, darating ang panahon na kung saan mauubos at mamamatay ang mga ito. Kaya naman ito ay nagbibigay ng rason para pangalagaan ang kalikasan, lalo na kung itatanong natin sa sarili natin. Meron pa bang aabutan ang mga susunod na henerasyon? Nature has its own life cycle and once it gets disrupted, it will never go back to its natural state. Sa pagkakataong ito, pumasok na ang ideya na ang nature kayang mabuhay ng mag-isa. Kahit nawala ang mga tao, mabubuhay ito dahil sa sarili nitong life cycle. Sa pagkakataong ito rin, ang mga tao nagiging problema sa pagkasira nito. Ang plastic pollution ay isa sa malaking problema na kinakaharap ng ating henerasyon at kahit na alam natin ang problemang ito, patuloy pa rin ang paggamit ng single-use plastic ng karamihan dahil sa bigay nito na convenience. Samahan pa ng pangangailangan natin sa paggamit ng face mask. Ang bulto-bulto na plastic ay makikitang nakatambak lamang, nakikitang palutang-lutang sa mga dalampasigan at ang presensya ng microplastic sa mga lamang dagat ay isa pa sa problemang kinahaharap natin. Ang pagputol ng mga puno naman ay isa ring malaking problema dahil sa pagkawala ng mga tirahan ng mga hayop, pagkakalbo ng gubat na nagdudulot rin ng panganib sa ating buhay katulad na nga ng mga landslide. Ang gusto mo bang ipamana sa susunod na henerasyon ay ang sira-sirang kalikasan? Masasabi mo ba sa susunod na henerasyon na ginawa mo ang parte mo na ingatan ang kalikasan? Siyempre, ang gusto natin na maipamana ay yung maganda, maayos at magagamit pa. Kaya naman ang sabi ng mga environmentalist, wilderness is a world heritage, universal at sa kahit ano pa mang henerasyon. We must do our part to preserve what we have. Siguro nga ay mahirap para sa iba na makita ang long-term effect dahil bakit nga naman nila po problemahin kung hindi pa naman nila nararamdaman ang kahirapan na maidulot ng irresponsableng paggamit. Sa larangan din ng politika at economics ay gumagamit sila ng discount rate para sa future rate. Ngunit ang kikitain mo sa pagputol ng puno ngayon, hindi matutumbasan ang halaga ng nasira. So there is no justification for that. But if you take it in full account, the value of the forest for the future generations, then that is what we say, it is justified. Wilderness is valued as something of immense beauty, as a reservoir of scientific knowledge still to be gained, for the recreational opportunities and the presence of something natural untouched by modern civilization. Because we have taken it for granted, a huge portion of it is destroyed. Katulad nga sa mga naririnig natin sa mga matatanda, minsan pag bumibisita sa ibang lugar, sabihin nila, dating kabundukan yan o dating palayan yan, na ngayon ay maaaring hinati na sa gitna at ginawang expressway ang mga kabundukan or ginawang tunnel at ang mga palayan naman ngayon ay mga subdivision na. Kaya naman rin manghang-mangha tayo pag nakakabisita tayo sa mga ilog at sapa na sobrang linis ng tubig dahil hindi na natin madalas nakikita ang mga ganito.
By preserving the environment, more opportunities for future generations could come. Sa pagpreserve at alaga sa ating kalikasan ay magkakaroon ng pagkakataon ang mga susunod na henerasyon na makita pa ang tunay na kagandahan ng mundo at hindi lamang ng mga man-made creations. If we continue to destroy the environment now, the choice of having an environment to appreciate and care for would be gone forever. This would be hard to restore. Just last month, NASA climate scientists protested about how we are on the brink of losing everything and how people have not been listening to them and their warnings regarding the Earth's condition. All the environmental issues and destruction created cannot be undone anymore. However, we still have a choice and a chance to save what is still left, as these still have value in them. We must not wrong the future generations, just like how we have been wronged by the past generations, whose thoughtless actions have deprived us of the possibility of enjoying and appreciating the environment. Thus, human-centered ethics is a great basis to use for powerful arguments regarding environmental values. This explains that we have a moral duty to nature for our own sake. Maintaining and taking care of the environment is a form of self-preservation as we benefit from nature. It also does not imply that economic growth is more important than the preservation of wilderness. Regardless of this, it is wrong to limit ourselves to human-centered ethics only, as there are many factors to consider. So, what are these factors? These factors are the value of sentient beings, reverence for life, and deep ecology. It is said that there are two types of values that were considered, which are intrinsic and instrumental. It is said that humans' intrinsic value is our perception of our inherent value as a living and breathing individual. Intrinsic value isn't related to any consequential outcomes such as merits, achievements, status, or even your value to others. You continue to have intrinsic value throughout your life even if you did nothing. Non-living humans also have value, but is it only unto sentient beings or beyond? With this in mind, we must think that there are a lot of things to consider when making decisions that could affect the state of the environment. Isang halimbawa na lamang ay ang deforestation upang makapagpatayo ng isang gusali. Karamihan ng mga tao ay sasabihin na okay lamang putulin ang mga puno dahil malaki naman ang kikitain sa building na itatayo. Hindi nila naiisip na ang mga hayop na naninirahan sa gubat na ito ay mawawalan ng bahay, lugar na mapagkukunan ng pagkain at maaaring mamatay. Ang deforestation ay hindi lamang pinapahamak ang kalagayan ng kalikasan kung hindi na rin ang buhay ng mga hayop dito. The deaths of these animals are commonly overlooked as most people think they have lower values than humans. But the difference between causing death to a person and to a conscious animal does not mean that the deaths of animals should be treated as being of no account. Peter Singer expresses that in terms of utilitarianism, the deaths of these animals will be taken into account, as people also benefit from these animals' existence. The next factor is reverence for life. It means that all life is valuable and important, and that no life, human, animal, or plants, should be sacrificed without compassionate consideration of the life lost compared to the greater good the sacrifice may yield. Albert says people can relate their own yearning for life, the want to live, and the fear of death to sentient creatures' experiences as well. As humans, we value life as sacred and should not be destroyed nor harmed. If we think like this with what sentient beings are like, then we would value them as well. Similar to Albert, Paul expresses that once humans view sentient beings in the way we view ourselves as worthy of living, we would also treat them the way we treat ourselves with great value to our lives. And lastly, Holmes also agrees that plants and other non-human living things have a purpose. In terms of natural selection, they have traits that are greatly valuable if it means they are able to survive with it. Contradictory to these perspectives, Peter Singer says that their statements and stands are misleading as they continuously use metaphors to describe sentient beings' will to live. He says that it is misleading because sentient beings do not generally have a will to live. Plants cannot express that they are yearning for life or that they are eager to live just like how humans are able to do so. The last factor to consider has something to do with deep ecology. Maliban sa deep ecology, mayroon ding sinasabing shallow ecology. Ang shadow ecology focuses on promoting sustainable activities such as recycling. It is concerned with addressing the bad environmental effects of industry and how it affects human interest. However, compared to deep ecology, it does not go far. It neglects what deep ecologists consider the underlying causes of environmental problems. A shallow ecology only deals with surface level issues and solutions. As for deep ecology, it involves the preservation and protection of the biosphere for its own sake and not for the benefits of humans. It looks beyond the surface issues and studies the root cause of the issue. It takes into consideration human needs, but it is also mindful to the value of non-human life. It is a movement that acknowledges the inherent value of all forms of life. Coexisting and cooperating with our non-human counterparts leads to prosperity and growth among forms of life. With this in mind, deep ecological ethics has three key principles. First is the well-being and flourishing of human and non-human life on Earth has value in themselves. Next, richness and diversity of life forms contribute to the realization of these values and are also values in themselves. And lastly, humans have no right to reduce this richness and diversity except to satisfy vital needs. In short, sinasabi ng deep ecological ethics na tao man o hindi, lahat ay may silbi at halaga. At dahil lahat ay natural na may halaga, walang karapatan ng mga tao na ipagpaliban lang ang mga ito dahil sa tingin nila ay mas mababa ang halaga ng mga ito sa tao. The main idea of this ethics is that the value of preserving the remaining significant areas of wilderness greatly exceeds the economic values gained through its destruction. It also expresses that once we are able to reach self-realization, it is also the key to understanding our true nature. We grow aware that we are interconnected with nature and identify ourselves with all other beings. Despite deep ecological ethics idea of everyone and everything having value and worth, Singer expresses that while some aspects of this are true, a huge portion of it is still left unproved or questionable. First, he says that as a whole, non-living human things like microorganisms and plants do have intrinsic worth when they are observed together. But individually, it isn't proved yet that each of these have intrinsic value. Lastly, he also says that just because these organisms are part of an interrelated system does not mean that they have intrinsic value, or if they are, it does not mean that they have equal worths. One could have more importance than the other.
With the different perspectives about environmental ethics presented, Peter Singer came to a conclusion that the most fundamental level to consider in environmental ethics is the interest of all sentient creatures, including the next generations. From that, we can say that we are given access to our needs from the environment. Access to environment does not mean that we are free to extract all our resources from the environment. It is still our responsibility to care and protect the environment, and with that, we have to be careful with our actions and be mindful of the consequences. Learn to appreciate wild places and unspoiled nature. Development and growth is not prohibited, such as the development of towns into cities, construction of buildings, road widening. But we have to plan and visualize these developments considering environmental risks and future rules. Green architecture is being introduced to our generation, where we can design a place that incorporates the beauty of nature to its design, such as the examples shown on the slides. As reported by Rappler from a 2014 news article, green buildings can save businesses and consumers $35.2 billion according to an estimate given by the DPWH. If we ask ourselves, in the long run, can the environment stay self-sufficient if I do this? Is this worth it? And will I harm the environment and the people I live with if I do this? Next point is that environmental ethics rejects the ideals of a materialistic society. It judges success in terms of development of one's abilities and the achievement of real fulfillment and satisfaction. More often than not, humans are tempted to sacrifice the security of a healthy environment because of personal interests and convenience, such as profit from mining, profit from rents in high-rise buildings, profit from factories, beauty and aesthetic from wearing diamonds, gold, and accessories, fast fashion, convenience of using single-use plastics, and many more. Material things do not give us the true meaning of happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Don't we feel better when we visit mountains to breathe in fresh air? Does the sound of ocean waves calm your mind? Don't we seek the shadow under the trees when the sun is too hot? And don't we just love to eat fruits and vegetables that are chemical free? Isn't it fulfilling to harvest from your own garden? These are a few of the activities that we can enjoy. Real fulfillment and satisfaction is achieved when one works for it without interrupting the natural cycle and without the obstruction of the environment. Peter Singer tells us that it is necessary to minimize our impact on the planet. Be a green consumer by reading about it through guides and books so that we can save our planet.
Environmental ethics leads us to reassess our notion of extravagance. Pinapahiwatig nito ang importansya ng pagiging wais sa paggastos, paggamit at pagtapon ng mga bagay. Binibigyang importansya nito ang pagsunod sa 3 Rs, ang reduce, reuse at recycle. Ang tunay na kaligayahan at ang pagpapatunay na may halaga ang isa ay hindi nanggagaling sa dami ng bagay na mayroon ka o sa dami ng bagay na kaya mong bilhin. Pleasure comes from being contented with what you have and using it to its maximum potential and best condition. And with that, we leave you to our call of doing our parts in conserving our resources and protecting the earth. That is all, and thank you for listening.